knows more about comics than me needs to explain this to me. What muscle does flying use?
You just made my day. First, I love your content, and I love that corset. I want one too. Second, you are asking about Superman-type characters. What is happening when they fly? In the book, The Science of Superman, Mark Wolverton hypothesizes that Superman is actually generating gravitons with his brain that is then allowing him to propel forward. Gravitons are the theoretical particles that cause gravity, and by generating them, he's able to negate gravity around him, allowing him to fly. While this is too small to read, this actual panel in the reboot after Crisis on Infinite Earth explicitly states that when Superman flies, the object that he's holding stops being supported by his super muscles and suddenly becomes lighter. It's because that force that he's generating with his brain is actually overcoming the gravity of the thing around him. Now, I should state that in most comics, they simply ignore that characters can fly. They just accept that it happens. My favorite exception to this is an issue of Excalibur where the other Superman analog, Captain Britain, walks into a sci-fi elevator that negates gravity. And it says that he generates a force that is greater than gravity. The two combined cause him to smash into the top of this elevator, thus underlying the fact that these characters are generating a force that lets them fly. There is a notable exception to that. In the grittier, more grounded comic Invincible, Omni-Man tells his son, Invincible, that flying requires exercise, that it requires practice, essentially that it requires your muscles, and that you are straining your muscles, and the more you practice and exercise, the faster you can fly, and the longer you can do it without getting tired. But to answer your question, most of these characters, including Superman and most Superman analogs, are not actually straining a muscle. They are actually concentrating. That is why they're squinting. That is why they're squeezing. They're concentrating, and their will, their mind, or the activation of their power is what is overcoming gravity and allowing them to fly. I hope that answers your question. It was a fantastic one. And if you ever have any other nerdy comic book questions, please ask me. I love to talk about them. Up, and away!
Facts. Superman would kick Homelander's ass because he wouldn't have to hold anything back.
Oh my goodness. Not only would Superman win in a fight against Homelander, Superman would win in a fight against anyone. But what about Batman? But what about... Shut up. This article by Cole Kennedy is doing a lot of my heavy lifting for me, so I'm going to use this as a reference. Superman has lifted infinite mass objects at least twice. By the way, that's impossible. It doesn't matter how strong you are. You can't lift something that has infinite mass. But he does it because that's how powerful he is. Superman once destroyed a solar system by sneezing. Yes, this is Silver Age, but it's not that far off from what he can do now. Superman pulled the Allfather's staff out of the source wall, the infinite wall that separates reality, which is supposed to be impossible to approach and impossible to remove anything from. And when Darkseid pissed him off enough, he actually planted Darkseid in that wall, which is also supposed to be impossible. And let's not forget that Darkseid is a literal god. And while we're at it, that same source wall that is impossible to get to move, to do anything with, Superman once punched a hole in it. Oh yeah, and no big deal, he has held a black hole in his hand, which is also impossible. So if all of this is true, how can Superman ever be defeated? The answer is simple: Shaggy. Just like the internet meme a few years ago, the only reason Superman ever gets defeated is because, he's only using 1% of his power. Superman feels the responsibility of being a hero. Superman has a deep moral fiber instilled upon him by his parents, Ma and Pa Kent. Homelander holds back because it might make him look bad. Superman is always holding back, always being less than he could be, because he never wants a single person to get hurt. Would Superman win in a fight against Homelander? Of course. Would Superman win in a fight against anyone? Yes. If he loses, it's not because he's less powerful. It's because to Superman, he would rather lose than let anyone get hurt. Well, I'm waiting for a repair vehicle to pick me up, so let's answer this question. Why doesn't Superman look like a bad windshield when he's flying and he flies through a million bugs? To answer this question, I actually want to talk about X-Men 2, the scene where Stryker attacks the school and Wolverine defends it. This is actually one of my favorite scenes in all of comic book movies. The reason is this is the first time we see on camera how terrifying Wolverine is. Now, we all know that Wolverine is powerful, but what makes Wolverine powerful is not his claws, not his bones, not his healing factor. It's everything. I want you to remember that. What makes a superhero powerful is the combination of their powers. What these guards realized really fast is they can shoot Wolverine, but he doesn't care. And he's fast enough to get in range really quickly, and he has claws that can slice them to ribbons. That combination makes him almost unstoppable to a normal opponent. So back to Superman. Part of the reason Superman is invulnerable is because of his natural Kryptonian physiology. He has a super dense body. He actually weighs more than a regular human. That is because he evolved on a planet with a higher density than Earth. In this comic, Batman uses that against him, saying that Batman has a force field around him, that if Superman crosses over that force field, an innocent person will die from an explosion. The revelation at the end is the innocent person was Batman. He knew that Superman could use his super senses to tell if he was lying. Now, is it that Superman is vibrating like the Flash? Because that's what the Flash does. When the Flash runs, he actually vibrates so that bugs and stuff pass right through him. That is not what Superman does. Superman does not actually have that ability. Superman naturally generates an extremely narrow force field around his entire body. And that works with his super dense molecular structure. The two of them work together, just like Wolverine. Superman's force field actually protects his supersuit. That is why his supersuit doesn't get damaged, but his cape gets ripped all the time. And when his supersuit does get ripped, that means he's attacked by a really powerful attack that got through his force field. But to answer your question, the reason he doesn't look like a windshield is because he has a force field around him. It is that combination of powers that makes Superman so powerful.
This is an excellent question. How can you tell how strong Superman is if he's just using his power to negate the thing that he's lifting? I want to again reference back to Mark Wolverton's book, The Science of Superman. His central theme to that book is it's not just that Superman has powers, it's that Superman's powers all work together. Imagine that I had the strength to lift up this tree. Well, guess what? If I tried to do that, I would tear my own arms off. So Superman's invulnerability actually helps him be stronger. And yes, Superman's ability to negate the gravity of things that he touches helps him lift heavier things. But my personal favorite version of this, did you know that Spider-Man uses his sticky powers to stick to the ground and punch harder? Whack!
Okay, people, Superman versus Ghost Rider, who wins? The Boy Scout versus the guy you spray paint on the side of your van. Fight! How could Ghost Rider defeat Superman? Ghost Rider is referred to as the most supernatural superhero of all, and we all know that Superman has trouble with the mystical. The spirit of vengeance is literally empowered with God's power. So in this scenario, let's say that Ghost Rider comes rocking up in his mystically enhanced motorcycle, pulls out his hell chain, and wraps up Superman. And let's say Superman doesn't resist. Why? Because Superman loves breaking out of chains. It's his jam. But suddenly Superman realizes he can't break out of these chains because he's into that. No, just kidding. He can't break out of them because they're mystical. Now, he could fly to Jupiter in a second. But those chains are technically inexhaustible. The Hellfire chains bonded to Ghost Rider could extend out forever. So let's say that Ghost Rider opens a portal, revs up his motorcycle, slams into Superman, taking him through the portal to hell. Hell has many amenities. It has demons, it has screaming souls, it has fire, but it doesn't have a yellow sun. And let's give another gimme that in hell time works differently. That's why the souls feel like they've been damned forever. As soon as Superman goes there, he starts to lose his solar power. And that's when Ghost Rider hits him with the penance stare. The penance stare convicts someone of their sins, burning them inside and out. Now, Superman should be less affected by this because he's a Boy Scout. He doesn't have that many sins. But when Ghost Rider used his stare against Hank Castle, the Punisher, it doesn't affect him. Hank Castle has killed hundreds of people. Why doesn't it affect him? Because he doesn't feel regret. He regrets nothing. But Superman feels regret for every time he's failed to save someone. So let's say that it does burn him inside and out. Ghost Rider then changes his Hellfire chain into a scythe and shunk, chops off Superman's head. So Ghost Rider wins. Except that wouldn't actually happen. If Superman was operating at full speed, he would simply use his super speed to figure out this is a supernatural creature. Ghost Rider would never be able to land a hit against him. And Superman could simply get the Spear of Destiny, which he has used to defeat the Spectre, a creature which is definitely more powerful than Ghost Rider. But now you know how Ghost Rider could technically defeat Superman. Penance stare! Oh, it's Saturday morning! Saitama time, baby! The Man of Steel versus the guy who exercised so hard his hair fell out. Fight! Now, you've already heard me talk about Superman at length. Superman will defeat any superhero that he fights because he is that ridiculously powerful. At first glance, this seems like a no-brainer. Saitama, even though he has done incredible things, has never done things on the power level that Superman has. So it's going to be a surprise to all of you when I say Saitama would win. Now, would Saitama win because he's a better martial artist than Superman? No. Would he win because he's faster, because he's stronger? No. Look at his outfit. His outfit is literally a parody of a Superman costume. This is not my hypothesis. This has been stated by the creator of One Punch Man, that Saitama is the idea of a superhero at the very end of their career, starting at the beginning. He is unstoppable. Superman has defeated gods. Superman has picked up infinite mass, held a black hole in his hand, done all of these completely impossible things, but he's still gotten hurt. And he's been overwhelmed by sheer physical force. As far as I can tell, this is the only time Saitama has ever been injured, is when a cat scratches him, and it's clearly supposed to be a joke. So it has nothing to do with power level. It has to do that Saitama is an idea. Saitama cannot be injured by his foes. Saitama cannot lose in a fight. He will always win, and that's what's so terrible for him. He will always be better than his opponent. He will always emerge unscathed, and it causes him horrible existential dread. Superman could pick up Saitama, fly him into a black hole, drop him in, and Saitama would just punch the black hole. Put Superman up against nearly anything else. Superman would defeat Goku. Come at me, he would. Superman would defeat Batman. Come at me, he would. But Superman can't defeat Saitama because Saitama is the abstract concept of an unstoppable superhero. He is a parody of Superman, and Superman cannot defeat a parody of himself. Or in the immortal words of One Punch Man. Huh?
Start a nerd argument with one sentence.
Batman will always beat Superman in a fight. But the reason is the same that your 3-year-old will beat you in a fight. Oh, you got me. You got me. Good job. Oh, nope, I'm defeated, all right. Let's go get some ice cream, Bruce. You're a really good Batman.